Welcome, everybody. So happy to see you. I'm so happy we all made it. All of the logistics are in place. Now we're here, and we get to talk through Reserve in a lot of detail, more detail than we've ever talked through Reserve before, so I hope you're into that kind of thing. If you're not, then you're in the wrong place. All right. So I want you all to read this comic for a second. I'll read it to you. One person says to the other, I mean, let's be honest here. The other person says, okay, I don't understand why anything happens, and I'm confused and scared, and trying really hard all the time. The first person says, that's a little too honest. Could you scale it back? And the person says, I'm sorry. I think this illustrates an important fact about humans in the world, right? We want to be honest, but not that honest. You know, we don't really want to admit all sorts of things that are happening in our own heads or the way we feel or the way we think about things, okay? So keep that in mind for a second. And I want to talk about the concept of confusion. What is confusion, okay? Confusion, typically when we talk about confusion, we focus on the fact that you're not understanding something, right? You're misunderstanding or you just don't know what's going on. And we think of that as a bad thing. We think of that as something that, you don't want people to see you as being confused. You want to pretend like you know what's going on. So if you feel confused, you might sit there and kind of nod your head and be like, yeah, no, I understand what's happening, right? We don't want to seem confused. But the thing about confusion is that it's kind of the interim step to getting to understanding, right? Because if you go through life and you never let yourself feel confused and actually focus on that confusion, then there's a lot of things you won't really think through that far. You won't really end up becoming unconfused, getting to that clarity, okay? Okay, one more thing here. So the feeling of confusion, what is really happening is you've noticed there's one thing that you think is true, and there's another thing that you think is true. You sort of think these things are both true, but they somehow don't fit together. Right? It's like you already believed this, and now you've come to believe this, and it's like, but both of these can't be true at once. And that experience, when there's two things that both seem like they should be true, but they don't fit together, what that feels like mentally, that's the feeling of confusion, okay? So when I talk about confusion, that's what I mean. And like I said, you have two choices when you're confused. You can just write it off and be like, whatever, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just moving on, right? You can take that feeling of like, ugh, and just be like, I'm just going to put that to the side. But now you have two facts in your brain that don't really add up. They don't really make sense. And if you keep doing that, you get a jumble of facts that don't make sense. That's not what we want, right? Instead, you want to stick with that confusion and sort it out, think it through, talk to people, experiment until you understand. That's what we're trying to do. So what I want to encourage you to do today, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Not all of it is going to make sense to you because there's a wide range of things. Different things will make sense to different people. I want to encourage you to hold on to your confusion. If something is said and you're like, that doesn't make sense, or I think that's wrong, or whatever, hold on to that. Don't be like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe write it down, or like make a mental note of like, I'm going to try to figure that out. I'm going to ask somebody. I'm going to have a conversation about this and try to understand what's going on. Does this make sense? Is Nevin crazy? Etc. Okay? So today, we're going to hold on to our confusion while we go through all of this. So why are we here? Fundamentally, we are here because of this. What we're looking at here is price increases in a bunch of different countries since 1960. So on the left, you can see the amount of price increase from 0 up to 20x. What that means is that the lines that go up to the top of this chart, where we're not even showing them anymore, the prices went up more than 20x in those places. And even a bunch of those other countries, you can see a lot of countries where the prices are up 5x or 10x over that period of time. Why? Why does that happen? We're going to talk about that in detail. But fundamentally, this is the thing that we're trying to solve. If all these lines were just flat, then like this project wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be trying to do the thing we're trying to do. We're trying to do this because of the fact that prices are going up to a very high degree in almost every place. And the thing we're trying to do, so this is a recent screenshot of the number of countries with high inflation. When we started the project, I remember talking to investors at the beginning and telling them there's 16 countries with 20% or higher inflation in the world, which is kind of crazy. But now there's 25 countries with 20% or higher inflation happening every year. And so that, again, that's fundamentally the thing that's driving the long-term goal of the reserve protocol. We want to solve this. We want these numbers to be much, much lower. We want things to look like this. We want your future purchasing power. This is showing over 50 years. It can go up and down a little bit, but we want it to be roughly stable, right? That is the objective. And so everything we're talking about today is sort of different pieces, different angles of a plan that we think could eventually get us there. This all started 5 years ago. The Reserve Project started 5 years ago, which is crazy to me, that we're just now getting to this point. And it started with some friends and I making a list of problems on a whiteboard. This is a photo of the actual whiteboard, the problems with cryptocurrency. And there's a bunch of them. Stability was obviously number one from the beginning, from our perspective, but there was a whole bunch of them. And if you look at the Reserve Project, it's actually sort of going through and trying to solve a bunch of these. There's another group that's going to be presenting later that's solving some others. And over the course of time, I think all of these problems could end up being solved, and we could have a cryptocurrency that really works as money. But that's how it started, literally with that list on a whiteboard. I don't know if you can see the little dollar bills. There's little packets of dollar bills on the whiteboard. It's because I was trying to convince my friends who were making this list to be more money-oriented at the time. I was hanging out with a bunch of people who didn't care about money and all, and I was like, let's keep money in the picture. Let's be money-oriented while we're thinking about how to fix currency. That's why those dollar bills are there. And so that small group of people, we decided, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to figure out how to fix cryptocurrency. We're going to try to solve all those problems. We got on this overnight sleep bus and did a sprint down in LA for a week. So we crawled into this bus and got into these little compartments, and we went to sleep. That's some of us waking up in the morning. Maybe we didn't sleep all that much. Here we are. This is the day that we sort of like really decided, okay, this is the direction that we're going. That's how it got started, in this coffee shop. But so much has happened since then, right? So from that very beginning section, we decided that we got to the point where the team decided, okay, wait a minute, we can't just build a cryptocurrency. We need to build a whole system for people to use cryptocurrency as money, right? Like, if you look at crypto exchanges, they don't make it very easy to use cryptocurrencies as money. So a huge team is formed. We'll talk about that in a second. We started off with this extremely simple app that combined chat and sending money, and we hacked it together. Some of the people in this room I can see smiling because they were there from the beginning. It was crazy. We had a whole service where you could buy and sell dollars just over chat in this system, and that was enough to get things off the ground. Then we upgraded to a new version of the app called RPay, which you can see the original version there, and then we've done a whole nother refresh again. So we've gone through this entire progression of this user-oriented platform to make it very easy to use crypto as money, and you'll hear more about that later. And then on the protocol side of things, early on, we started off, it's hard to see on the screen, but with the original Reserve white paper, and then in 2021, we spent a long time working on RPay, that app, and building that whole system, where we weren't focused on the protocol. Then we came back and rethought the protocol one more time before implementing it. So we have the 2021 version of the protocol, which we are here to release today. I'm very excited about that. And along with the core team, we've gotten to the point where there's about 50,000 RSR holders out in the world. Probably more people holding on exchanges, but there's about 50,000 people who are, holding RSR, who are understanding what we're doing. They're part of this in some way. Some of them are very involved, some of them are not. But it's an important global community that's part of this project. And also 684,000, as of a day or two ago, RPay account holders. So that app I just showed you, there's about 684,000 people who have an account with that app, who are aiming to use it to make their currency life easier. And the number of full-time team members up until now, you can see we stayed pretty small for a while, and then we've been scaling as RPay has been scaling. So we're up to almost 250 full-time team members, many of whom are in this room. Not everyone could make it. For the other team who's watching on the stream, I wish you could be here. But yeah, it's been fantastic. The energy we have on our team, I mean, you'll experience it if you're not on the team when you talk to people today. It's second to none. And I also would like to know about the people in the room, including the people on the team. So I'm going to do a poll right now. I would like everyone to scan this QR code. I'll give you a second to pull this up. And this is just going to allow you to answer some questions on your phone so that we can learn about who's in the room. And again, please do this even if you're on the reserve team. I want a comprehensive sample here. All right, is that working? You guys are seeing things on your phone? All right, great. So first off, simple question. Which continent do you live on? Awesome. Well, we know who's winning. Excellent, okay. And next question. Yep. How long have you known about Reserve? Did you hear about it in the last month, in 2022, in 2021, or before? 2020 or before? Okay, awesome. So mostly veterans here. And how many cryptocurrencies do you own? 0, 1, 2 to 5, 5 to 25, or more than 25? All right. That's more than I thought. So we're mostly a 2 to 5 crowd. Do you have some RSR? It's a legitimate question. Not that I'm saying you should or should not have any RSR. That is entirely up to you. I'm just curious to know if you happen to already. All right, so the room is a little over 80% RSR holding. I think this is the last one. No, a couple more. Okay, have you used the Reserve app? Have you used RPay? Wow, okay, wow. All right, so 75% of the people in the room have actually used RPay. Excellent. Okay, this is the last one. How high is your home currency's inflation? So the currency in the country you live in, what is the inflation rate right now? There's really there's nobody, 0 to 3%? 0. So I guess we don't have any Japanese people here or Chinese people. It's my secret way of detecting Japanese and Chinese people. All right, so 4% of people in the room have 3 to 6%. 15% have 50 to 100. 18% over 100% inflation. 22%, 6 to 9%, so that's sort of like US level. And then 41%, 10 to 50% annual inflation. All right, so you guys get it. All right, so I want to show you guys a film that we've been making. And for a lot of people who know about the project, it's not all new information. But for some people in the room, it'll be new information. I think it'll be a great overview of the project. And if you already know the project, I want you to watch this film all the way through with us, because I want you to know what it is and to feel empowered to share it with other people if you want to tell them about Reserve. So watch it, share it. It'll be live later today, and critique it. Talk to us about it, because we've actually started to build a film team, and we've done this internally, and we'll be using film more and more over the course of time. So critique it, talk to our team about it, tell us what you think about it, and let's go ahead and roll that now. Hi, I'm Nevin, one of the co-founders of Reserve. This video introduces Reserve overall. We're going to tell you about the main problems with money that we're trying to solve, how we're trying to solve them, the progress we've made so far, and how you can use what we've already built and help us build what's next. It's longer than a normal intro video because we want you to really get it. If you already kind of know what Reserve is basically doing but don't understand why or how we're doing it, this video will get you to the next level.
Reserve is basically a new approach to currency. If it were to fully succeed, it would be used by the majority of people in the world. Like every person, business, bank, and government would be able to make every payment, fill every savings account, and make every loan using this new approach to money. And it's meant for everybody. And it's meant for everybody basically because we all have the same problem, which is inflation. The prices go up for almost everybody in almost every country. This happens every year, every decade, every century. The prices just keep going up. And sometimes it happens slowly, sometimes it happens alarmingly fast. And sometimes, like right now in many places, the prices go up medium fast. And that still really adds up over time. The International Monetary Fund has consumer price data going back to 1960 for a lot of countries. And that's what we're showing here on this chart. The lines that go off the top of the chart are countries where prices have gone up more than 20x. But even in the US, prices have gone up 8x in that time. That means that if your family saved any money in US dollars since 1960, you can only buy 1/8 as much now as you could then, an 87% loss in purchasing power. Why? Why did the prices always go up? The prices always go up because we always print money. Or more specifically, we always print money faster than our economies can handle it. Economists have known for a long time that overprinting money leads to price inflation. Here's Milton Freeman showing the relationship back in 1978.
I just want to settle for once and for all the point that inflation is a monetary phenomenon. That proposition has been documented over and over again. We have evidence for the United States for over 100 years, for Great Britain for 200 years, for Sweden for 200 years. That chart is for the United States, and it covers the 13 years from 1964 through 1976. And one of those charts is the quantity of money per unit of output, and the other line is a consumer price index.
Let's decode what he's saying here. The green line is money being printed, and the red line is prices. So you can see that as more money is printed, prices go up proportionally. Prices are going up because the dollar is being diluted, and that reduces its value. But the green line is not just showing the amount of money in circulation, it's actually showing the money supply divided by the size of the economy. That's why he said quantity of money per unit of output. What this means is that if the money supply were growing at the same rate as the economy, for example, if they were each growing at 2% per year, that green line actually would have been flat. To the extent that it's steeper than flat, that's because we're printing money faster than the economy is growing. So this shows that in the 70s, we were printing money quite quickly relative to economic growth, and inflation was moving at the same quick pace as well.
But you may say that's only for the United States. But what about other countries? The next slide is for Germany for the same period. And again, you will see the same story. Well, the United States and Germany are very similar countries. What about another country? That's for Japan, and you will notice that Japan experienced a much greater price rise than either the United States or Germany did. Let's have the next chart, which is for Great Britain. You can see each one of these has a little bit more inflation than the preceding one, but each one of them, you again have the same relationship in every case between the quantity of money and prices. Or what explains the next chart for Brazil? Now that's an inflation that's really an inflation. That's none of these baby inflations we've been playing with. Of course, there are still better ones in Argentina and Chile, but we don't have a big enough room.
So why does printing more money make money less valuable? When people have more money, they're willing to spend more. They actually feel like things are worth more. Johnny Harris puts this really clearly in his video on inflation.
Inflation is when there is more money in the economy than stuff to spend it on. But if you're like me, the simplest definition never does it for you. So let's try this. Imagine a village that has one market where people buy all of their stuff, their food, their clothes. But one day the government shows up because they're worried about the economy of this village. So they tell the people that if they want to take out a loan, they're going to make sure that the banks will not charge them a high interest rate. They want to encourage the people to take out loans and spend money. Oh, and they also drop off a giant pile of cash for everyone in the village. And everyone in the village is like, sweet, I'm feeling pretty rich. Villagers now are going to their market and they're buying way more stuff. Many of them have been eyeing the fancy electric bike in the market that before they couldn't justify, but now they totally can because they have all this new money. The store owner's like, sweet, this is great for business, but he's running out of bikes. In fact, he's running out of everything because now all of these people have extra money and they're buying way more than they used to. The store owner's like, I can't keep up with all this demand. I should raise prices. And that is inflation.
In this case, it didn't work out that badly for the villagers. Prices went up, but they had all that free money to make up for it. The thing is, it doesn't usually work that way. We don't usually print money and hand it all out perfectly evenly to everybody. We often spend it in concentrated ways. For example, we might print a bunch of money and then use that to bail out a particular bank. Or we might print a bunch of money and use that to pay back lenders that we borrowed from in order to fund a war. Ray Dalio just wrote a great book about when and why we do this with our world reserve currencies.
As I studied the 10 most powerful empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies, it took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies. Breaking the link to gold allowed the U.S. to continue spending more than it earned, simply by printing more paper dollars. Since there was an increase in the number of dollars without an increase in the country's wealth, the value of each dollar fell. As these new dollars entered the market, without a corresponding increase in productivity, they went to buy lots of stocks, gold, and commodities, and hence caused their prices to rise. As I studied more history, I saw that the exact same thing happened many, many times before. I saw that since the beginning of time, when governments spent much more than they took in taxes, and conditions got bad, they ran out of money and they needed more. So they printed more, a lot more, which made its value fall and made the prices of most everything, including stocks, gold, and commodities, rise. That's when I first learned the principle that when central banks print a lot of money to relieve a crisis, buy stocks, gold, and commodities, because their value will rise and the value of paper money will fall. This printing of money is also what happened in 2008 to relieve the mortgage-driven debt crisis, and in 2020 to relieve the pandemic-driven economic crisis, and it almost certainly will happen in the future. When debts become very large and there is an economic downturn, and the empire can no longer borrow the money necessary to repay its debts, the financial bubble bursts. This creates great domestic hardships and forces the country to choose between defaulting on its debts or printing a lot of new money. It always chooses to print a lot of new money, at first gradually and eventually massively. That devalues the currency and raises inflation. Of the roughly 750 currencies that existed since 1700, less than 20% now exist, and all of them have been devalued. For the Dutch, this happened after their defeat in the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, when they weren't able to repay the massive debts they built up during it. This led to a run on the Bank of Amsterdam and a desperate sell-off, forcing massive money printing, which devalued the currency and the empire into irrelevance. For the British, this happened after World War II, when despite their victory, they could not repay the massive debts they borrowed to fund their war effort. This led to a series of money printing, devaluations, and sell-offs in the British pound as the US and the dollar emerged dominant and created a new world order. At the time of this recording, the United States hasn't yet reached this point. While it has massive debt, spends more than it earns, and funds this deficit with more borrowing and printing huge amounts of new money, the big sell-off in dollars and dollar debt hasn't yet begun.
The point Dalio is making here is that we don't only need to worry about the constant slow inflation of the dollar, we need to worry about potential massive devaluations, just like we saw with the past two reserve currencies at the end of their reign. I don't really know on what timescale this could play out, but I take it seriously, and I hope that the reserve protocol can be used to create a true alternative to fiat money that doesn't have this problem. Let's review. Pretty much all fiat currencies are devaluing all the time. We're printing money faster than our economies are growing, and that extra money is being spent and driving up prices, thus devaluing the currencies themselves. This is happening a little bit all the time, and sometimes happens on a massive scale, even with world reserve currencies. Dalio, Harris, and Freeman all go into more detail in their full videos, which we've linked in the description for you to watch later, but you get the idea. What this means is when you put in hard work and you get your paycheck, if you don't spend it all right away, the amount that you can purchase back from the world is just always going down. But what if it wasn't? What if that's not how money worked? What if there was a way where your purchasing power just stayed the same? You know, that would mean that you could do some work and earn $1,000, and 50 years later, that same $1,000 could purchase exactly the same amount as it could today. That's fundamentally what we're trying to offer. We're trying to offer that type of stability to everybody worldwide indefinitely. Hi, you're meeting the Reserve Project. As of this video, in 2022, we are 230 full-time team members, 2,700 R Club members. R Club is a group of early reserve adopters who help us promote the project. 50,000 reserve rights token holders, that's the governance token in the reserve protocol, and hundreds of thousands of reserve stablecoin users, including many merchants of all kinds that accept payments in the reserve app for their goods and services. We started in the San Francisco Bay Area, and now we are everywhere and anywhere, with lots of dinners and drinks, and sometimes week-long work sprints and so on. Recently, we're starting to have clusters of people in Buenos Aires, Bogotá, Mexico City, and San Francisco. For the past 4 years, we've been planning how to make currencies that don't inflate, and rolling out several initial pieces to get us there. But I haven't yet addressed the big question here. Can you actually create a currency that doesn't inflate, that doesn't have this problem of price inflation? And we think that the answer is maybe yes. Here's why. So the thing is, in a sense, wealthy people have already solved this problem. What I mean by that is that wealthy people don't keep their money in currency. They know that even the US dollar is losing value all the time. And so they keep their money in very diversified baskets of assets, like stocks, bonds, gold, and real estate. And they only convert enough money into their local currencies to cover short-term expenses or to carry out transactions. So someone might sell some stock for US dollars to go buy a house, for example. What we basically propose is to take the same assets that wealthy people already use to protect their wealth and aggregate those assets all together and then make a currency directly out of them, like an asset-backed currency, a currency that is backed by that diversified basket of assets directly, one-to-one. This way, you can just store your wealth, just like wealthy people already do, using that currency backed by a basket of assets. And you can also go right ahead and spend portions of that wealth directly because the currency is just a token. And you don't need to ever trade out into any local fiat currency. An asset-backed currency built on the Reserve Protocol is called an R token, and it runs on smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. anybody can mint an R token, which is a little bit wild. You know, it's unlike a fiat currency where only the central bank can sort of control the creation of money. And to take that even further, you don't even need to interact with any person or business to mint one. It's all a permissionless thing that you can just do on the blockchain. But there is a catch. There's a reason why this is okay, which is that to mint an R token, you have to deposit the entire basket of assets that backs it one-to-one. And so that means that every R token that gets minted is backed by the appropriate basket of assets. And it also means that nobody can just create them for free. Likewise, anybody can redeem R tokens for the assets in their baskets. And you can do that 24/7 with no permission just by sending a transaction to the smart contract. R tokens also have some other fancy features, like a layer of insurance in case any of the collateral assets encounters a technical problem, and also rules for how their baskets and other parameters can be updated. But those are pretty complicated, so I'm not going to go into it now. You can check out some of our longer videos and written documentation if you want to go deeper and understand that. We ultimately envision these currencies being backed by highly diverse baskets of tokenized assets. Again, just like how wealthy people today already diversify their holdings. Not many financial assets are tokenized yet, but we think that they will be. You know, for example, stocks, bonds, real estate. Gold, interestingly, already is by two different custodians. So that's one example of the sort of tokenization we're talking about. A funny thing about the Reserve Protocol is that the team that invented it and that has developed it has never created a currency with it. And we don't intend to. And the thing is, we don't need to, because anybody can do that. And the whole point is to allow anyone and everybody to try their hand at doing so. So just like how you can go deploy a smart contract on Ethereum, or you can deploy a new trading pair on Uniswap, and in those cases you don't need anybody's permission, nobody even has to know that it's you doing it, you can also go and deploy a new currency on Reserve without our permission. And also, you can get paid to do that, because currencies on Reserve can generate revenue. And as the creator, you can choose to take a cut if you want to. As a side note, we did create RSV, which isn't truly an R token. It's kind of a proto-R token. But also we expect RSV to be overtaken by fully featured R tokens now that the protocol is live. Since not a lot has been tokenized yet, early R tokens will look really different from how we think R tokens will look 10 years from now. Today, you can mix and match anything in DeFi, and that can get pretty interesting, but it will usually still leave you depending on the US dollar at the end of the day, because most of what's interesting in DeFi is interesting derivatives on top of US dollar stablecoins. That's why the tokenization of everything else is so important to the Reserve project in the long term. Let's say that this all works, and years from now, we have asset-backed currencies governed by functional DAOs and designed not to devalue the way that fiat currencies do. What then? Can we put these asset-backed currencies in our bank accounts? Probably not, at least not for a long time. And that is why we've also built RPay, which is a stablecoin platform where you can hold and spend R tokens. RPay is an app for Android and iOS. Today, all balances in RPay are in US dollars, since the only stablecoin you can hold with it right now is RSV, and RSV is pegged to the US dollar. Soon, you'll be able to hold other cryptocurrencies, and eventually, you'll be able to hold other R tokens as well. RPay makes it easy to pay for things, just like other modern wallet apps. Choose the amount you want to send, hit a button, pick who you want to send it to, and then you'll write a message for the transaction. RPay will ask you for a PIN for security, and as soon as you put it in, the transaction clears. As of now, RPay is a cloud custody wallet, which means that the company holds the RSV for you, and the transactions you do in the app happen on our servers rather than on the blockchain, and that makes them fast and free. We intend to add support for user custody as well. User custody means that you'd be able to hold your crypto keys yourself and transact directly on public blockchains. The technology for doing that with low transaction fees and transfer times is still very new, so we plan to integrate it as things mature. You can deposit money into RPay via many different currencies, including US dollars, Venezuelan bolivars, Argentine pesos, Colombian pesos, and Peruvian soles. Right now, the app is only in Spanish, since it's only live in Latin America, but English is coming soon. You can deposit RSV itself if you have a balance on Ethereum, and you can also make deposits with Bitcoin, USDT, USDC, and DAI. When you make a deposit, the value gets converted into RSV automatically, and when you withdraw into another currency, it's also automatically converted on the way out. You can see here the exchange rate to Peruvian soles at the time this withdrawal was made. Let's look at the process of withdrawing 5 RSV into Venezuelan bolivars. It's pretty simple. We put in the amount that we want to withdraw. Looks like we'll get 40.85 bolivars for our $5. We'll put in our PIN for security. And now the withdrawal is processing. Some currencies process faster than others. Venezuelan banks are usually very efficient, so this one should go fast. In the background, a third-party company is triggering the Bolivar bank transfer. Every transaction like this is covered by our anti-money laundering practices, so you do have to share some identity info before you can make a withdrawal like this, but we try to keep that process pretty painless. And you can see the withdrawal is complete. It's quite convenient. You can go from a stablecoin-backed dollar balance to Venezuelan bolivars in under a minute. And we can take a look at our Venezuelan bank account and see right there, those 40.85 bolivars have already landed. That was a live transaction, not a simulation, so it's actually that fast for our everyday users. RPay became a popular way to save and spend in US dollars in Venezuela during their recent battle with hyperinflation. Luckily, their inflation rate has calmed down, but it's still pretty significant, and RPay is still widely used. At this point, there's about 27,000 merchants that accept payments with RPay, and users do about $300 million worth of transactions per month as of the making of this video. The thing is, most people around the world just use stablecoins in order to invest in other cryptocurrencies. But RPay users are getting their paychecks in stablecoins. They're saving to buy cars and paying their rent and buying their groceries and sending money to their families. We also see businesses using it to save their working capital in dollars and to move their money in and out of foreign bank accounts. This is the kind of crypto usage that we're excited about.
Acá nosotros no tenemos como tal una moneda estable. Entonces, ¿qué necesitamos? Siempre estar convirtiendo nuestros bolívares en una divisa extranjera o en una criptomoneda para que de esa manera pierda menos su valor. Y eso ha sido lo que Reserve nos ha facilitado mucho. Lo podemos convertir en dólares, que de esa manera los podemos luego de que son dólares, aunque parezca incoherente, los volvemos a transformar en bolívares para cancelar. Esa es una realidad pues que se vive en este país.
From the very start, from the very beginning, RPay was actually looking to solve a problem for the people that their currency fell for them, and that their currency was devaluating every day, and they didn't have any other choice. And with stable currencies, they were able to do it. And with a tool that allows them to hold and spend it, they were able to do it and give them hope that a new reality, a different reality, could start with them.
Pocas personas que tienen acceso a bancos internacionales y son los que tienen quizás esas cuentas accesibles para hacer transacciones a través de Cel o algunas transferencias, pero los que no tienen, y acá en Venezuela es mucha la mayoría de las personas que no la tienen, pues hoy en día a través de Reserve es una buena opción de servicio para ese tipo de pago.
En un principio, nosotros cuando recibíamos los pagos en bolívares, el dinero se nos diluía en las manos. Lo que teníamos hoy, ya mañana valía la mitad. Teníamos la mitad de poder adquisitivo y así no podíamos seguir ahorrando porque no íbamos a poder concretar nada. Un día llegamos a la casa de un amigo, le comentamos lo que queríamos hacer, lo que nos estaba pasando con los ahorros, y nos dice, pero ustedes no usan Reserve. Nosotros Reserve. Nos muestra la aplicación y allí comenzamos. Comenzamos a cada pago que nos caía, que se diluía en las manos, que se nos devaluaban los bolívares, bueno, íbamos guardando en Reserve y en Reserve no se devaluaba.
To kind of think about the context here, imagine paying high fees to send money to your mom. Or imagine that your currency is devaluing and you can't really do anything about it. It's kind of weird. We live in this world where it is possible to, click once and make a free video call to somebody anywhere in the world, but to send a few dollars to a family member living in some other country is often a daunting process and it's often expensive. Why is that? right? It's like, it just seems like the electronics should allow us to do it. The internet should allow us to do it. What is the problem?
Many of the financial regulations that exist today were from 20, 30, 40 years ago and more, creating a lot of bureaucracy in the process, adding a lot of different intermediaries on the process to make a financial transaction, increasing costs, and creating barriers that divide and exclude. And usually are the most vulnerable ones, or the ones unlucky enough to have been born in another part of the world, to be left out and to widen these inequalities.
The RPay team isn't just focused on stability. They really want to provide all sorts of financial services to people everywhere in the world.
Las oportunidades que tenemos con estas nuevas tecnologías son nuevas herramientas y debemos verlas, los emprendedores, los innovadores, como nuevas herramientas para solucionar problemas de una manera más conveniente que se hacía anteriormente.
If we can scale RPay globally, everyone around the world will have access to stable currency regardless of their geographic location. And they'll also have, over time, access to more and more basic financial services that they don't necessarily have today. You know, crypto will actually make that easier for us to offer globally. And if Reserve's approach to asset-backed currency works, then prices just won't go up for people anymore. You'll be able to buy the same amount of food or vacations or school tuition year after year and decade after decade, and so will your grandchildren. It's a bit crazy to imagine. You know, we ask ourselves, like, is it really possible to change the way that money works, the way that we're talking about? We basically think there's only one way to find out. You can also try these things out if you want to. RPay, for example, is on both iOS and Android, so you can download it and check it out. And you can see a longer list of R tokens on Register. They're not all listed in RPay. Register is kind of like the Etherscan of Reserve, and it can be found at register.app. Reserve rights token holders can participate in governing and insuring R tokens, and they can get paid to do so. If you're interested in that, you can explore the staking reward rates on Register to see if that appeals to you, and if so, you can buy some RSR on your crypto exchange of choice and get started staking. One note about that is that staking rewards are based on the demand for R tokens, so if more people decide to use R tokens over the course of time, there'll be more money to be made from staking. And then also, if you're the inventive type, you can create brand new R tokens yourself. Like I said before, anyone can do that. If you have an idea for an asset-backed currency that can be implemented with existing ERC20 tokens, or by the way, any DeFi positions that can be wrapped to tokenize them, then you can use Register to deploy new R tokens yourself. Depending on how complicated you want to get, you might need to create a new collateral adapter, which can require some technical skill, and you're welcome to come find us on our Discord and talk to us about how to do that. And then also, if you want to work on Reserve in a dedicated way, you have a couple of options. You can apply to join one of the full-time teams working on the project at reserve.org/jobs, or you can apply for a grant to work on a specific project on your own, or with a team of yours or a small group at reserve.org/grants.
Yeah? Yeah, you liked it? Oh, good, good, good. I like it too. Awesome, awesome. Great. All right, thanks everyone for watching that together. The people in this room are some of the most interested and enthusiastic about Reserve in the world, I would assume. And so we wanted everyone to see that video, to see it first, and again, to be able to share it with people, and again, critique it, talk to us about it, tell us what you think of it. But I really think that we put a lot of time into making that explanation, because we've had this experience over the years where people find out about the project, they're interested, maybe they apply for a job, but there's so much about Reserve to explain it. It really takes, we crammed it, and it's still like a 25 or something minute video to talk through what's going on. So we hope that this is going to help us sort of get the message out a bit further and engage people who are interested in the project, but have trouble figuring it out from just reading our boring documentation on our website. So with that context in mind, I'm just going to say a few more words, talk about a few more things as an introduction, and then we'll get going into more details. So, all right. I want to talk about the difference between minting and printing money. And this is relevant to what's causing that problem of price inflation. So if you mint a gold coin, okay, you have some gold. You start with the gold. You have it. It's already worth something because of humanity's consensus that gold is worth something. You bring it to the mint, and they put it through this series of machines. I don't know what these machines are, but the point is, you start with the gold. It gets processed, and it gets handed back to you in coin form, but it's the same gold that already had that value. It's the same value before and after the minting process, okay? So there's no ability to make gold coins that have value unless you already have the valuable gold and you bring them to the mint. And that's actually very similar to the way that the Reserve Protocol works, versus printing fiat money. In the old days, we did it on a paper. Now we do it, in a database. But the point there is that you don't have to start with something valuable in order to create fiat money. We all know this. We did the poll. Everyone understands high inflation here. But that simple concept of minting versus printing, I want you to keep that in mind, because I think that's a useful way to think about this and to explain it to people. So with the Reserve Protocol, we decided to. You saw some of those graphics in that video. We decided to use this visual design language of sort of showing the different assets that are in an R token and how those come together to create a token that's just made of the assets. So it's like a gold coin, right? You start with the gold, you put it in coin form, but it's still the gold. The same thing is true with an R token. You start with the valuable assets, whatever they are, you mush them together digitally rather than physically, and then you have a token that actually is that value. And so we hope that this imagery will help sort of get that point across. But who's going to make R tokens? So as many of you know, we don't plan to make any R tokens ourselves. And so we'll talk more about this later, but there's a financial incentive to create R tokens. Some people might do it to make money. Some people might do it because they care about this problem, because they're interested in creating alternative currencies over the course of time. I think perhaps the most successful R tokens could be created not by people who are looking to make money, but by people who are looking to change currency. In the short term, though, we're going to kick it off classic crypto way with a hackathon on Gitcoin. So if anyone is a developer and is familiar with the Ethereum ecosystem, Gitcoin is sort of the center of bounties and hackathons. And so we think maybe some of the first R tokens and other pieces of infrastructure will be created with this hackathon starting October 25th. Now, one more point about R token creation that I just want to try to get out there and have everyone in this room understand and convey this to others as well. There's a question of how will R tokens be branded? Are they supposed to be reserve this, reserve that, everything connected to the Reserve brand? The answer is no. We actually think that it's very important that R tokens not be branded as Reserve assets. And now, like similarly to how if you build something on Ethereum, an Ethereum application, you don't call it, the Ethereum decentralized exchange or, the Ethereum lending service or whatever. They have their own brands, they're their own projects. And that's, I think, really important at the beginning because some R tokens will be good and some will be bad, right? By making an open platform, there'll be R tokens that blow up and that cause problems. And it's important for the overall ecosystem to not get too dragged down by some things that are, that are not high quality. But also over the course of time, I just think it's important for people to understand that that this really is just a technology. It is an open piece of software that anyone can use to create these currencies. And I think it's better for people to understand that it's not me or the people who started this who are going to be doing it. Similar to how the people who created Ethereum are not the ones developing all the applications. So up until now, we've always said, yeah, do whatever you want with the Reserve brand. You can use it, mutilate it, do whatever you want. That's still mostly true, except you're not allowed to use it to brand your R token. So if you do that, we will come after you and stop you from doing that and force you to make up a cooler brand of your own. In the short term, the protocol side of the Reserve project is going to focus on three main things: ecosystem building, like grants, events, and this upcoming hackathon; R token integrations, like getting R tokens integrated into crypto exchanges and wallets and other fintech platforms; and governance research. Governance, we'll talk about that later today. It's a huge challenge in the Reserve ecosystem, is really solving decentralized governance over the course of time. So we'll be doing direct R&D ourselves. We'll be participating in broad discussions and offering grants. And that concludes our introduction. So welcome again to this event. Thank you for coming. And up next, we're going to have my friend Tom Courier, who's going to talk to us about a theoretical R token design that will help you visualize that possible future. Thanks.